We have heard Brad Marchand's side of the trade story, and wow, was he ever more gracious to the Boston Bruins than he needed to be.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Tuesday, March 11th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day. It's available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today we continue to discuss the Brad Marchand to the Florida Panthers trade, a team that just so happens to be visiting TD Garden tonight. Marchand will be in the building, but not in the lineup. And we're going to discuss his reaction to the trade, what we learned from him yesterday at his introductory press conference, briefly discuss his legacy with the team, and then preview tonight's game against the Panthers. Before we get into all that, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins, and you can find me, my hockey thoughts and dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. So a very emotional Brad Marchand took to the podium in Florida on Monday to introduce himself to the Panthers and the media and to kind of give his side of what happened between himself and the Bruins and the eventual split that happened last Friday with that trade for a fairly underwhelming return. Now, he began by saying he had an incredible run with the Bruins and he's extremely proud of how things went there. Having said that, he was very disappointed that things didn't get done, that he and the Bruins management group were not able to come to an agreement on a contract extension. And we learned again from Elliot Friedman over the weekend that Marchand requested a face-to-face meeting, that there was an agreement on 3-year term, but the two sides could not agree on valuation over the course of that contract. And the Bruins drew a pretty hard line in the sand. Marchand was willing to bend a little bit, but they were not. And then they acquiesced to his request to be sent to one team only, and that was the Florida Panthers. Marchand said he loved the Bruins organization. He wanted to stay, but at the end of the day, he knows that it's a business and every player has a shelf life. He added, quote, regardless if that's when we want it to be or not, sometimes there's things out of our control that dictate situations. Maybe if the Bruins were in the playoffs at this point of time, probably be having a much different conversation. He knows that it's something the Bruins talked about previously, but the fact is they're not in a playoff position at this point, and very tough decisions had to be made. Now, Marchand still has a lot of gas left in the tank. This is not dissimilar, but also different from the Zdeno Chara situation, where Chara was already 40, and the Bruins had said, thank you for your service, but we're going to go with younger options. Marchand still has a lot of gas left. He still can contribute. He was the team's second leading scorer. But there is an argument to be made here for not necessarily giving him a raise over his current deal because he had been on a team-friendly contract for the last several years. That was to the Bruins' benefit, and there was some suggestion perhaps they should have made good on that by coughing up on his next and likely final deal, but the Bruins were not willing to do that, and there's some sense to that. You don't want to go higher on an asset that's kind of diminishing, let's be honest. And he even admitted it. They have a shelf life. There should have been more runway in terms of the time he spent with the Boston Bruins. I'm not arguing that. I think they should have. If he was kind of willing to meet them part way, they should have bent a little bit to make it happen. We all know the optics here are terrible. The fan base is is grieving, and rightfully so, because there's no good reason why the captain isn't still a member of the team, or the now former captain. And especially at that return, a 2027 conditional second round pick that will become a first rounder in 2027 or 2028 if the Panthers win 2 rounds in this year's playoffs and Marchand appears in at least 50% of the games. Now, last week, Don Sweeney said he was out for about 3 to 4 weeks yet. Apparently, he's going to try skating today and could be back sooner than that. Apparently, Sweeney had set a high price for Marchand when negotiations stalled and they put him on the trade market. But Marchand's injury status, his no team or his 8-team no trade list, and his preference to chase a Stanley Cup limited Boston's options. And to Boston's credit, they did send him to exactly where he wanted to go and took a hit when it comes to the return as well as the public perception. But Marchand, he easily could have been disgruntled and said XYZ about Cam Neely, Don Sweeney, about not respecting what he brought to the organization or valuing his contributions over the years to the point where he was priceless or could not be traded. But he did the exact opposite. He said the one thing he always respects, and he told this to Neely and Sweeney, is they have a job to do. They have to make the best decision for the team. He said he completely understands where the decisions need to be made. Sometimes they work against you. That's why I believe, he said, Sweens is one of the best, if not the best, general manager in the league. He's watched him for a very long time excel at his job, making tough decisions in the past, letting Torrey Krug walk. Same thing with Zdeno Chara. For those who are in the organization and know the effort he puts in every day and how hard he works, no one would question where his loyalty lies, and that's to do the best for the team every day. When you're part of that group, you feel it, Marchand said. He added, every guy has their day. It's obviously not what you want to have happen, but he doesn't hold anything against Sweeney or the group. It's part of life. It's part of the game. And he did create this opportunity for him to be in Florida, and he's grateful beyond words for everything that organization has done for me. Again, beyond gracious, extremely gracious of Marchand to take that angle in his comments about the Bruins and the situation. Could his shelf life have been extended in Boston? Certainly. Should it have been? Probably. And like I've said a few times now, the biggest issue I have is the fact that Sweeney, had signed Elias Lindholm to a 7-year, $7.75 million contract, and Brad Marchand at 36, almost 37, was still outproducing that big signing. And if you're comparing the two, easily could have been worth what Sweeney had given to Lindholm on the open market. So that's where it's a bit, there's a bit of a disconnect there. How can you value that player so highly, but not be willing to bend on your captain, a franchise legend and icon, and then trade him for really pennies on the dollar? Marchand did also say, you never know how long you have in this league. You never know when your last day is going to be. You want to make the most of it. It would have been great to be able to stay and play out the career there. It's been an incredible journey, one that he's really excited about, but he feels rejuvenated going down to Florida. Completely different mindset from where we are as a team, the things we were going through. Panthers compared to the Bruins. Seeing the path these guys are on and the way they are preparing for the playoffs, which the Bruins are not. These two teams will play tonight. We'll preview that later on in the podcast. But coming up, we'll take a little look at Brad Marchand's legacy as a member of the Boston Bruins and what exactly he's leaving behind, the huge skates to fill for the next wave of Bruins and the leadership core that is yet to be announced, the next captain, and that needs to emerge. We'll touch on that here as the podcast continues. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year? Well, Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle. Whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto, Factor offers wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, and grab and go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. The convenience is unbeatable. No prep, no mess, just great food in minutes. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/lockedonnhl50 off and use code lockedonnhl50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code LockedOnNHL50 off at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. All right, there is no question at all that Brad Marchand will go down as one of the greatest Bruins of all time. You look at where he ranks in terms of scoring on this team, 5th in total points with 976. Unfortunately, he has 24 points to go to hit the 1,000-point mark, something he will not do in black and gold, but it could come next season. Some people suggest perhaps he could re-sign in the summer, but I don't think you can underestimate the bonds he'll make in Florida and their willingness to keep him in the mix. Plus, he's saying the right things, but there could be some bitter feelings that would keep him. And if the Bruins aren't willing to bend, then it's probably not going to happen. So he finishes with 976 career points with the Bruins. That's 5th all time. He has, let's see here, in terms of goals, he ranks 4th all time with 422. 5 behind Patrice Bergeron. He was very close to jumping into the top 3. And in assists, Marchand ranks 6th all time, just 1 behind David Krejci to finish outside of the top 5. He does have 36 career shorthanded goals, which of course is the most all time among all Bruins. And of course, we know that he stepped up huge for this team in the postseason as well. He ranks 4th all time in playoff games played at 157, but he's 1st in franchise history with 56 playoff goals, 1 more than team president Cam Neely, who had 55 playoff goals in 86 games, I should add. Which is pretty incredible. He has 82 assists in the postseason, which is 3rd all time for the Bruins behind Ray Bourque and David Krejci. And in total playoff points, he ranks 2nd all time. 138 playoff points, which is 2nd to Ray Bourque, ahead of David Krejci and Patrice Bergeron. Just an incredible legacy that he leaves behind, and his real breakout came in the 2011 Stanley Cup run, capped off by 2 goals in Game 7 against the Vancouver Canucks. 11 goals, 19 points in the playoffs as a rookie in a depth role. He wasn't in a starring role at that point. His relentless energy, timely scoring, and of course his ability to get under opponent's skin became a trademark of his game that he would not let go of by any means. Over the years, he evolved from that pesky winger into one of the NHL's most complete players, regularly ranking among the league's top scorers while maintaining his signature intensity. He carried the franchise's tradition of leadership and grit as captain, embodying the Boston Bruins hockey identity. His offensive production, two-way play, and longevity with the team solidified him as one of the greatest Bruins of all time. And of course, there were some bumps along the way, some suspensions, some controversies, some questionable actions on the ice. But his passion and loyalty to Boston made him a fan favorite and a franchise icon. And again, I've maintained many times that if he had been drafted by any team in the NHL, he would be beloved by that franchise as much as he is maligned by all, well, other 30 teams now, other than Boston and Florida, who I know Panthers fans will come to love him. He even had a 100-point season, 36 goals, 64 assists. I would have loved for him to have gotten 37 and 63 that year, but that was a fantastic season back in 2018, 2019. He was instrumental in the run in 2019 to the Stanley Cup final, leading the team in scoring with 23 points in 24 games. Missed the line change in the final seconds of that first period was notable, but it just fueled his continued drive to bring another cup to Boston. They had their best chance in 2023, and we all know and remember that tearful hug shared between him and Bergeron when that did not happen. During that run, he had that clutch goal against Columbus, and his legacy led him to being named captain after Bergeron retired. If you think back to 2011, even 2012, the early years of his career, you would never have thought that he would emerge as captain one day. It's a testament to his evolution as a leader, as a player, as a man, on and off the ice, shifting from an agitator who sometimes crossed the line to a respected voice in the locker room and around the NHL. The fact that he's being embraced already in Florida, despite the rivalry over the past few years and by some guys that he's had run-ins with, speaks to just hockey community and how these guys are able to brush it off and befriend each other no matter what. But his captaincy carried over that legacy of accountability and culture and excellence that does remain intact, but will have to be picked up by whoever is the next captain, whether it's David Pastrnak, Charlie McAvoy, or someone else. He did embrace the villain role. Let's not sugarcoat it. Tongue wagging, trash talking, antics often enraged opponents and fans across the league. Fined, suspended multiple times, but he was able to back that up with elite play that made him a player that opponents hated but respected. His combination of elite offense, defensive responsibility, and unmatched competitiveness makes him one of the greatest Bruins of all time. He's able to elevate his game in big moments. He did win a Stanley Cup. We would have loved to have another one in 2019, another one in 2023, but alas, it was not meant to be. His leadership as captain ensures his place as a franchise icon. He's going to the Hall of Fame. His number will be retired at some point, and his impact on Boston hockey will be remembered for generations, whether it's for clutch goals, key defensive plays, shorthanded goals, or his unforgettable chirps. It's very sad to see him go. It's very jarring to see him in Panthers colors. He will be at TD Garden today to officially say goodbye to his teammates. The Panthers are in Boston tonight to take on the Bruins. Our black and gold fighting, scrapping for any points that they can get to try to stay in the playoff race. It's probably better served for them to try to get the best, highest draft pick this season, but don't tell the players that because they are extremely motivated after this sell-off to prove that the guys who remain still are a team to be reckoned with, and they'll have a chance to prove that after a 4-0 shutout win over the Tampa Bay Lightning on Saturday tonight against the Panthers, and we'll preview that game here as the podcast continues. If you're looking for a snack that is both nutritious and delicious, you have to crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller longer. I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, recording the pod, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. But if you love cracking open every shell, their in-shell options are a classic favorite. Get snacking, get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Bruins, Panthers tonight in Boston with Brad Marchand in the building. The Bruins, of course, will not have anyone with a C on their jersey. There will be no captain for the foreseeable future. Of note, I should add, the Florida Panthers will be without defenseman Aaron Ekblad. He's been suspended 20 games without pay for violating the terms of the NHLPA, NHL Performance Enhancing Substances Program. And he failed a random drug test. He said he made a mistake by taking something to help him recover from recent injuries without first checking with proper medical and team personnel, which is how. So the Panthers will be without Ekblad. They did, of course, add Seth Jones on the blue line, so he will help to shore things up. Ekblad is an unrestricted free agent at season's end as well, so this could perhaps affect his relationship with the team. It's a fourth and final meeting before these two teams this season. The Panthers have won 2 of 3 so far. The Bruins did win back on January 11th, a 4-3 decision as David Pastrnak scored the game winner in that one, and the Bruins were able to get finally a win over the Panthers this season. It's their last opportunity to do so, barring a meeting in the playoffs, which would be nuts, but very, very unlikely to happen. Now, the Panthers are coming in here pretty hot. They're 8-2 over their past 10 games. They have won 6 in a row. The Bruins are 2-6-2 over their past 10, but they did win that game on Saturday against the Tampa Bay Lightning, which was rather impressive considering the Lightning were buyers at the deadline and the Bruins were sellers. Sam Reinhart leads this team in scoring with 68 points. Alexander Barkov next with 60. New defenseman Seth Jones, now the leader on the blue line with 27 points. Barkov, the hottest Panther with 6 points, 3 goals over their last 5 games. Morgan Geekie leads the way for the Bruins over the past 5 with 3 games, including 2 in that game against Tampa. Pastrnak with 6 points over the past 5, but only 1 goal to go with 5 assists. The Bruins have a big gap now between their top leading scorer and their second leading scorer. Marchand, of course, had 47 points in 61 games before his trade. He's now the 4th highest point getter on the Panthers. Right now, we have David Pastrnak with 79 points in 65 games. And then you have a 40-point drop to Pavel Zacha, who has 39 points, second in the team. Casey Middlestat with 35, tied with Morgan Geekie. Elias Lindholm has 32 points. I'm really looking at him now to step up for this team. You come in as a veteran guy, it's kind of challenging to step in when there's already an established culture and leadership group. a lot of those guys are gone now, and Lindholm, as the second highest paid forward on this team, needs to step up and establish himself as a leader on this team, and that needs to come across in his play. The Bruins, that was a very encouraging win on Saturday. They need to keep it going here, not just for trying to get back into the playoffs, which, let's be honest, is not going to happen, very likely, but just to kind of save some face, for some pride, to prove that Boston still is a destination, a team to be reckoned with, and will not go quietly into the night. The Bruins are 4 points out of the second wildcard spot, and both wildcard teams right now have 2 fewer games played. So that just adds to Boston's uphill climb. They're 13th in the conference in point percentage right now. Basically very little to no chance of getting back into the playoff race. They are now 14th when it comes to goal differential, so that's something. But it's going to be an emotional night, especially if Marchand makes an appearance or they track to him in the press box, and I don't know if they'll save the video tribute for when he actually steps onto the ice as a Panther or with whoever next season. He is on the ice this morning in a Florida Panthers jersey at TD Garden, which is just beyond bonkers. It's still something tough to process. You look at the boys t-shirt from just 2 years ago, and so many names are gone off that list. Like most, aside from Pasta, Chucky, who else? Sway, Lindy, Pavs, Laux is back, but that's it, which is pretty insane. It's a new era for the Boston Bruins. David Pastrnak is going to come out firing for the rest of the season, and that he is going to keep firing. The lines right now for tonight's game: Geeky, Zacha, Pastrnak. Of course, they've been great so far. Kepke, Middlestat, Lettieri, Hudnustinov, Lindholm, Lauko, Beecher, Kostelik, Brown. You'll notice Matt Poitras is not on that list. He was sent back to Providence. It was believed to have been a paper move, but it seems as though that's going to be a permanent move for now. And they just want him to continue to improve, to try to find some space, to work on getting the puck on net a little more at times. He's going to find more opportunities in Providence. Poitras, Merkulov, Lysell, even Oliver Wahlstrom, who had a hat trick over the weekend, all should be up for this team. But these are the lines we're going with for now. And on the back end, you have Zadorov, Jokiharju, Lohrei, Peak, Witherspoon, and Ian Mitchell, with Swayman in the starters net. Uphill battle ahead for the Bruins tonight and moving forward, but we continue to watch, support, and root for the boys in black and gold, even as we hold on to that affinity for Bruins past. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Please do check out the Locked On NHL podcast next, also available in your pod feeds and on YouTube. League-wide stories from our local experts, and it's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Happy Tuesday, friends. Happy birthday to my wife, Lauren. Hope you're having a great time out with your mom and your aunt. I know you're not going to probably listen to this, but it's out there. And please do take care of yourselves, take care of each other. We'll talk to you again here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.